Hi, my name's Kris and welcome to episode number 6. If you're watching this on YouTube or if you're listening to this through Spotify or podcast, hello. And this episode, I actually filmed last week, but I didn't really like it because I ended up going on this tangent and I just kind of thought, I probably just went a little bit off track. So I didn't do it. So there's a bit of delay. So, I thought I'd reshoot it today, and it's an important topic, and it's about fear. And fear is an incredible thing that prevents so many of us doing what we know we could probably do, but it's an incredible blocker for people, and I want to talk to you, about your relationship with fear and my experiences with fear. But I thought we'd start off by talking a little bit about, how do I overcome fear? Now, what I'm doing right now is speaking to a live audience, speaking about myself personally. This is in itself one of the biggest, scariest things that anyone would find to do. And it's a great, feeling to be here with you and, not in fear, but with absolute gratitude and comfort, without any kind of fear at all. And why that is, why do you, I want you to have a think for a minute, like, why do you think that I'm not afraid about talking to a live audience? Have you had a moment to think and I wonder what you come up with, but I'll tell you the answer. Why it's easy for me to talk about addiction, to talk about myself, to talk to a live audience is because I'm doing it to help someone. I'm doing it to help you. And as soon as you understand that, it's easy. See, because fear is about me. What if it doesn't work? What if they don't like me? What if I say the wrong thing? What if I fuck up? Like I fucked up last week, big fucking deal. I didn't think it was good enough. Okay, I'll shoot it again. But it was important that I shot this topic because it's really important. And if you're listening to this, there's probably something that you're afraid of doing. There's probably something that you've been thinking about doing. Perhaps it might be a business. Perhaps it might be doing something like this, starting a podcast, starting a channel, starting a personal brand. It could be starting, a weight loss journey or anything like that. But really, ultimately, fear is a very, very crippling phenomenon. And how I overcome my fear is I remember who I'm doing it for. It's not about me. I'm clear of addiction. I'm not doing this so much as to help me. I'm doing it to help you. And I want you to keep that in mind. I want you to keep that in mind whenever the fear comes in, and it's okay. You're going to feel fear. But I want you to remember when you do feel that fear, remember why you're doing it. And if you're doing something like, it's to provide a better life for your family. It's to get better health. It's to put yourself in a better financial position so you can help more people. It's to get off drugs so that you can be a better dad, a better partner, a better member of the community. And these are all things that it takes the focus off yourself. Fear is very self-centered. So how I overcome fear is I remember that I'm not doing it for me. It's not about me. It's about that one person who hears that message and decides that they're not going to use today, or that they're going to start taking some action and start really kind of changing their life. I mean, this is why I do what I do. It's to help people. And it's very, very, very difficult to feel fear. And let's put it in a couple of different scenarios. So if you're first on the scene of an accident, you're naturally going to have this impulse to go and help people. You're not going to be worried. You're not going to be fearful. You're just going to step into action and how can I help? This is true. And it's just so important that you remember that when it's about other people, the fear goes away. So that's how I personally overcome the fear. But let's talk now more about fear in general and your relationship with fear and failure. Because fear and failure kind of work together. And, because the fear of failure and all of that kind of thing. But when I think about failure, the first thing that comes to mind is pain. And pain and failure go very well together. And it's been incredibly painful for me, failing. And especially as we all know that, one of my biggest failures was losing everything. So as you can imagine, my relationship with failure is pretty close. I've had a lot of it, and I've had a lot of big failures. But when I think about my relationship with failure, it's actually a really positive relationship. And the reason why my relationship with failure is so positive is because it was my decision to see that failure as a lesson. It was my decision to look at that failure as reality. Failure is reality. Failure is the reality of something that didn't work. And it's your job to learn from that failure and find out, well, why didn't this work? So let's use my example of Big Dog Diner and that particular failure. So first of all, it was a success. However, it soon quickly turned into a failure. It was about year 2.5, year 3. And what I learned from that failure was many different things. And ultimately, I was 100% responsible for the failure. I was a major cause of the failure. And most importantly, I learned valuable lifelong lessons that I would certainly not be in a hurry to repeat again. So the first thing for me really was the acceptance that the main cause of the failure was me and my addiction. So when I think about failure, I think, no, it actually was the best thing. It actually helped me to accept that I would continue to fail because, again, I wasn't just failing in business. I was also failing as a husband, as a father, as a friend, as a business partner, as a boss. My addiction was a cause of multiple failures. It just wasn't the business. It was all of my relationships that surrounded that business as well. And that's why, I don't look at that failure as a negative thing. That failure told me that, hey, Kris, you have to accept that drugs are going to continue to cause failure because it was just so obvious to me and everyone around me that my drug addiction was the major cause of me not being in a position to properly manage my business. So the failure has actually been a real blessing because it enabled me to take responsibility for my drug addiction. See, failure is not bad. It's only bad if you don't learn from it. I mean, imagine if I, had the failure, and it was all due to drug relation. Imagine if I just kept using. Just imagine how sad that would be. And it even scares me to think about. So, you lose your business, you lose your relationship, you lose your kids, you lose your license, you lose your reputation, you're losing your health. Fuck. Isn't that just a reminder of how much addiction takes from us? Like you end up just losing everything. But imagine if I kept on using. I mean, what a sad fucking story that would be. And when you think about yourself, as a character in a story, reading that story of the guy who, had everything, lost it all to addiction, continued to use, and just ended up on the street dying in the fucking gutter somewhere. I mean, that's a really fucking tragic story. I much prefer the story of a guy who has a successful business, made himself a multimillionaire with no education, came from foster families, worked hard, always battled with addiction. His business got really successful, stress levels went up, his old habits of addiction, just the perfect storm. Guy ends up losing everything. But he doesn't lose everything. He finds himself. He accepts full responsibility for his failure. He accepts it. And he decides to learn from it. He decides that this failure is just an opportunity. This is an opportunity for me to get clarity. And clarity is power, remember that. But it gave me the opportunity to hit rock bottom. And there's a major power in rock bottom. Remember the podcast, the power of a rock bottom. And it gave me the opportunity to write a really happy ending and a story that I'm currently living. And I'll tell you what, you pick the role of the movie that you're in, and I much prefer the role of this guy, because this is the role of the hero. The hero who, all the odds were stacked against him. Many people who were very, very close to me just thought that, he's finished. There's no coming back from this. And I knew that. And again, I knew that, with knowing that, gee, what an opportunity, to be as the phoenix and rise from the ashes and come back better, stronger, and wiser. And that's really all failure is. Failure is letting you know that, hey, it's not working. Okay, great. Don't you want to know that it's not working? I mean, I think you should. I think it's really important that, that's what failure is. Failure is just letting us know, because failure is kind of reality in a way. Because most of us kind of think that we're not failing, and then we find out, oh my God, how did that end up happening? How many people are in relationships that end up failing, and it's just like one partner's just completely taken by surprise. Like, how the fuck did that happen? But when it happens, it's when it starts to sink in, and it was not a real surprise. It's just that you weren't taking notice, just like I wasn't. I wasn't taking notice of all of the little signs that were letting me know that I was failing. But all failure is clarity. It's letting you know that it's not working. And it's your job, it's your choice. If you want to take responsibility for that reality, people are in denial. Oh, no, it's this person's fault, it's that fault, it's that fault, it's that fault, it's that. Oh, fuck, please. The best advice I think anyone could get is to take fucking full responsibility for everything that fucking happens to you. It's so much easier because you're in control. Okay, I'm responsible. It's up to me. Great. It's very powerful. What have you failed at that you haven't handled well? Do you still carry a grudge for your failures? Do you blame people for your failures? Do you blame your partner for the relationship failing? Do you blame a business partner for your business failing? It's very, very unhealthy. It's very, very unhealthy to blame other people for anything. And I want you to understand that failure is not a bad thing. It's in fact an incredible opportunity to learn, to improve, to have humility, to have courage. It takes courage to start again after you failed. It takes humility to accept failure. It's your decision if it's negative or positive. So your relationship with failure has to improve. Because if you're not failing, you're not really fucking trying at anything anyway. So how do you overcome fear? Well, forget about yourself. Who are you doing it for? How do you improve your relationship with failure? Well, it's an opportunity to learn. It's an opportunity to take responsibility. It's an opportunity to get clarity. It's an opportunity to be humble. And it's also an opportunity to be courageous. Thanks for listening.